What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time again. This is the third rewind that I ever do on this channel. We're finally on to March, and something that's probably going to end up happening going forward with these rewind videos is that I'm going to end up dropping each one like at the end of the following month. Like it's going to be like the end of April by the time that this March rewind comes out, and then my February rewind ended up coming out near like the end of March. So unfortunately, that's probably going to end up being the case every time because I just have so much stuff going on and so many projects that I'm in the middle of. But the upside is that I'm getting a lot of reading done, and this month I ended up actually reading 12 volumes of manga, plus a bunch of digital stuff that I read and some movies that I watched, and we're going to talk about all of it in this video. And for the most part, I liked everything that I read. There's a couple things that I gave like 3.5s, but overall, my ratings I put at the bottom for everything that I rate. For the digitals, I just kind of give you like the day that it came out. I started doing that in the last video since this is like a brand new thing that I started doing this year. And I do it like once a month. I'm kind of like fleshing it out as I go, but as of the last video, I started putting the day that each volume comes out, or that each chapter comes out for the digital stuff, and then the day that it comes out, and how many if it's like a monthly, weekly, whatever, bi-weekly series, I put all that there. So yeah, let's jump right into this video. Alright, so for digital, I'm going to start off with Astro Baby. This series is approaching its finale. It feels that way, and given some of the stuff that I'm seeing in the chapter drops, like, it makes it pretty clear that it's coming to its ultimate climax. I talked about Astro Baby in a first impressions video a while ago. Solid series, ton of fun. I think it's Shiro Moriya just kind of trying to step away from what he did with Soloist in a Cage. And I talked about Soloist in a Cage extensively in my February rewind video. So if you want to go check that out, I would definitely appreciate it. Next up, we got Astro Royale by Gen Wakui. I read a handful of chapters of this, last month. I'm not caught up yet, unfortunately, because I'm trying to also keep up with a lot of other stuff. So it impedes me from being able to, catch up with it. But I'm definitely trying. I'm still like probably 15 or so chapters behind, because like I'll read a couple chapters and then forget about it for like a couple weeks. So then I'll fall back behind, instead of like, actually catching up. I keep falling behind, and I kind of stay like in the range of like 13 to 15 chapters behind on Astro Royale. But I'm having a blast with it, given what I've read so far. And, every time like I start to get a little bit closer, it gets further away. And even then, the stuff that I'm reading is just solid. I feel like it's turning out to be a hell of a series, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go and to watch it grow, because it's like still a pretty new series. And I was kind of there when it, first came out, and I read like the chapter when it dropped, and then read the handful of chapters that came out, and then kind of like, let it get away from me. But I'm starting to catch back up, and to see the series, develop in real time, it's pretty wild. And that's one of the things that I love about reading digital manga. Like, as it's dropping, not stuff that had dropped a while ago and now they're just releasing it on digital just to get out in English, but stuff that is, releasing at the same time that it's releasing in Japan. It feels really wild, and I'm super excited to be a part of that for a lot of different series. And some of them, I talked about on this channel, like right when they came out. Chainsaw Man, I wish I could have been there for the beginning of. I wasn't there for the first chapter drop of Chainsaw Man, but I was there for the first volume of Chainsaw Man, and I've been collecting it since the first volume of the series dropped. And after the first volume dropped, I went and started reading the digital, and by that point, I think it was already up to like chapter 80 something, or even already complete. I don't think it was completed, actually. I think it was up to like chapter 80 something, or even like 90, and I ended up reading the last handful of chapters, I think, as they dropped. And then for part 2, I was pretty much there, from day one of part 2, and reading everything as it happened. So yeah, that's that's been a pretty wild ride, and I love Chainsaw Man. I love pretty much anything that Tatsuki Fujimoto does. I'm excited to always be there and always be supporting his works, and I collect the physicals for Chainsaw Man as they drop. I've been doing so for a really long time, since 2020 is when I got into it, when the first volume dropped, and now continue to do so into whenever, into the future. Next up, we got Dan to Dan. This is another one that I also wish I could have been there for the inception of it, but I wasn't. However, I did read it. I did read the first volume when it dropped, and then same thing as with Chainsaw Man. Like, after I read that first volume, I started reading it digitally. Like, I needed to know what happened next. I couldn't wait for volume 2, so I just started reading it on the Shonen Jump Viz app, and then eventually, I migrated over to the Manga Plus app, and I've been using the Manga Plus app for like probably 2 years now. And yeah, that's definitely my personal preference for reading, because I feel like there's a lot more stuff on the Manga Plus app than there is on the Shonen Jump Viz app. But yeah, same thing with Dan to Dan. I love Dan to Dan. I collect every volume of Dan to Dan as it drops, because I love to support series that I cherish deeply, and that's one that I do really care about. And yeah, I've been collecting it since pretty much since the first volume dropped, and each subsequent volume of Dan to Dan that has dropped, I've been there picking it up. And today is Monday, Dan to Dan Monday, and I read the latest chapter of Dan to Dan. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to support that series for as long as it remains in publication. Kaguya Bachi, this is a great series too. This drops on Sundays, but I usually read Kaguya Bachi on Monday. I usually try not to do too much manga reading on my phone over the weekends, because like I already spend so much damn time on my phone. It's like I do a lot of networking and whatnot on my phone, and I do a lot of stuff on my phone. So like when I'm here on the weekends, I try to actually get some physical book reading done. But typically, like, I read manga on my lunch breaks and whatnot at work, and that's like when the most of my digital manga reading is done. It's like on my lunch breaks at work. And yeah, Kaguya Bachi is a series that I love. I've been collecting the physicals as they drop. I collect them. I have the first 2 so far, and whenever volume 3 drops, pretty sure I have it pre-ordered. So that's another series that I'm just gonna support as those physicals drop, because I've been there since day one. I read that first chapter of Kaguya Bachi when it dropped, and I will continue to support it. And yeah, I read yesterday's chapter today and loved it. The arc that Kaguya Bachi is building up is absolutely wild, and I cannot wait to see how this is going to conclude, because I think we've been through like 2 or 3 arcs so far. This might be the 3rd arc now. So, I mean, I can't really say too much about it, because I don't want to start spoiling these things for anybody. Maybe eventually, like, I'll do a new video about Kaguya Bachi, like, kind of like, going into more of what's happening right now in the series. And I would have to like kind of go back and reread a lot of it, and kind of like write my thoughts on everything and the structure of it and whatnot, because like it's a thing where like Kaguya Bachi is a series where like it just keeps adding on to things, and like it brings back old things, but it adds on and expands and whatnot. And I like a series that'll do something like that, where it kind of keeps breathing life into things that you were introduced to really early on. And sometimes because you're introduced to it so early on, you kind of forget it, as the story starts to progress. And that's kind of what's happened with me with it, where there were certain elements that were introduced really early on that I've kind of like erased, because I'm also reading like a lot of other stuff. So it's like hard for me to like just cram everything into my brain. Nightlight Hounds. This is another series that I keep up with. I love Nightlight Hounds. I think it might be up to chapter 10 now, or 11, somewhere around there, but it's not too, or maybe a little bit further than that, but it's not too far along. It's still pretty early on. I think it's like a bi-weekly chapter drop, the schedule for that series, but really solid series. I'm excited to see where it's going to go from where we're at right now. It's the same creator who did Levius. Never personally read Levius, but I may eventually get into it, given that I'm having an absolute blast with Nightlight Hounds. The lead in Nightlight Hounds is this kid named Jimmy, and it's kind of like a 1920s sort of aesthetic, like mobsters and vampires and whatnot. And we're at a part now where Jimmy's like kind of like a goofy character, but he's like in a place where he needs to start, when he needs to kind of like stop, being a goofy character, and other characters are kind of like trying to mold him into a more serious sort of a character. Yeah, it's going to be wild to see, him in a sense kind of change his ways and adapt and become like a more serious sort of a person and whatnot. And hopefully, he still kind of retains a little bit of that, because I feel like that's a part of him that another character named Lily, which is a little girl, fell in love with, is that he's caring and whatnot. And, it'd be a shame for him to lose that kind of caring side of him and just become kind of like stoic and whatnot, which is kind of what they're, trying to push for. But yeah, solid series, and definitely excited to see where future chapters of it will go. And so Mad is a series that I love. I started reading Mad when the first chapter dropped of that series, and I talked about Mad in one of my videos, and one of my I usually talk about a lot of these, pretty much I think all of these digital series I've talked about in first impressions videos, and Mad is another one that, like, I read that first chapter, like I remember seeing just like the Mad, like the title Mad in red, and then it's just like against like a black backdrop, and that was it. Like there's nothing else, and it piqued my interest, so I ended up reading it and loved it. Loved that first chapter, and it builds this like really mysterious world, and you really don't know what the hell is going on, and little by little it starts to add in all sorts of different elements and starts to build this world. And it's funny seeing like the comments on the Manga Plus app for it, because like I feel like a lot of us really are kind of in agreement about different things, and something happens to a specific character that I'm not going to say the name of, but it was hilarious that like we all collectively had the same response to this character's fate. Again, I'm not going to say who or what happens, but I thought it was kind of hilarious, and absolutely I'm loving Mad. I don't want to say too much about it. I feel like it's a series that you should really just go into it without knowing anything, but if you do want to a little bit of a explanation of it and the world lore and building and whatnot, I talked about it in one of my first impressions videos. Ruri Dragon is another series that I absolutely adore. It is such a solid manga. It's like a coming of age about a girl who is like half dragon, but like the half dragon side of her is like becoming super duper evident, and it's like really starting to shape the course of her life. And it's funny, because it's like the whole kind of like adolescence thing, like when you start to like grow and your body's all awkward and whatnot because like you're getting older, and like like your body's just doing a lot of weird stuff that you really don't understand and whatnot, and like your hormones are going bananas. And I don't know, I think that's kind of like what her becoming a dragon is almost like a metaphor for, like this just changing of yourself. Like you start getting older, you start getting acne all over your face and whatnot, and like your voice starts to change, and all these different things happen to you as you hit that like growth spurt. And being like an adult, and you look back on it and you're like, yeah man, I was an awkward kid. And so you look back and just go, damn dude, my teen years were kind of awkward, but I had fun. I like had friends and whatnot, and it's cool to see a story about a girl who's like going through that, and who's like getting friends, and who's starting to go from being somebody that really didn't talk much to a lot of people, was like really reserved, really quiet, to suddenly being like the center of attention, and like people want to be around her. Wild Strawberry, this is another one that I'm pretty sure is coming to its conclusion. I've pretty much been reading Wild Strawberry since it released. I don't even know when, like in 2023 or whatever. Had a lot of fun with it. It's like Chainsaw Man, but like in a dystopian flower sort of world, where like these flowers named Jinka have taken over the world, and people join these groups called the like flower funeral forces or whatever. That's kind of like the corpse in Demon Slayer, where like they go up into the mountains and only like a handful of people come out. It sort of turns into that as well with Wild Strawberry, and kind of reminds me of Gantz as well, because like there's like later on in Gantz, I don't want to say too much about it, but later on in Gantz, like there's like this thing where there's like this whole training facility or whatever, and it kind of reminded me of that. It made me think of Gantz, and like it also made me think of like Chainsaw Man and like Demon Slayer. Like there's all these elements of like those series. I'm not saying that it was influenced by any of those things in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying like that's kind of what it made me think of. Those are the things that like it kind of, and some of the story's a little disjointed as well, which is unfortunate. And like there's like some things that don't make a ton of sense. Like we're introduced to these random characters, and then like you don't even know who they are, and it's like I don't know if the story expects you to care about them, so it is kind of disjointed in parts. And it's like a flawed story, but it's still a story that I would recommend if you want like a fun, like gory, what do I want to even call it? Like dystopian, annihilation-esque sort of a manga series, and most of it's already out, so it's not like you have to sit there and wait, for each chapter to drop, and it's going to reach its conclusion pretty soon. My guess would be in like the next 3 or 4 chapters, and I don't think I've read the latest chapter if it's even dropped yet. But yeah, given where it's at, I'm pretty sure it's really starting to get super duper close to reaching its conclusion. You got to tell a much longer story than other creators have, so I think that's pretty cool. Ichi the Witch, I absolutely adore. I love Ichi the Witch, dude. This is hands down one of my favorite series that is coming out right now. Unfortunately, I did kind of sleep on it a little bit. I didn't start reading Ichi the Witch until like it was already like 4 or 5 chapters deep, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, I didn't read the first chapter when it dropped, but I am, keeping up with it. I read each chapter as it drops now, and yeah, like I started reading it once it was already like 5 or 6 chapters deep, and then I kind of abandoned it for a little bit and then came back to it. If you enjoy like fantasy series, but like not, like super gory, violent, brutal, Claymore, Berserk, you know what I mean? Fantasy worlds. Not that there is anything wrong with those, because I enjoy those worlds as well, but I mean, like, if you want just like a fun, sort of like a fantasy world, I think that you will love Ichi the Witch. It's super duper adorable. The characters are all a ton of fun, but at the same time, like, there is action that is extremely well done and paced. The pacing is solid all around. Like the building of characters, like I feel like it does this thing really well where it can weave like humor, like where it's just like slapstick, sort of humor and whatnot, and then it'll have moments that are like super introspective and serious, and we're introduced to all these different characters, like Gumugi, I think her name is, who's like this young girl who is an apprentice, and this Garis, the Abyssal Witch. She's super duper OP, but she's super nonchalant about it, you know what I mean? Like, she has like this insane power, but at the same time, she's such a goofball. And I kind of like that about her, where like, she does at first come across like she's going to take herself extremely seriously, as she does, for the most part, take herself seriously because she is extremely powerful. But at the same time, she's like a total goofball, and our lead, Ichi, is a total goofball, and Gumugi, I think her name is, it's kind of like the straight man, you know what I mean? She's kind of like the straight man, so it's like a thing in Japan. Manza, I think it is. I think it's called Manza comedy or something like that, where there's like 2 dudes, and one of them's like the straight man, and the other one makes the stupid jokes and whatnot. That's kind of what it makes me think of, where like instead of it just being like one person that is that, there's like 2 people that are like the ones that tell the dumb joke, and then Gumugi's the one that like kind of reacts to it. But it's hilarious, dude, and the arc that we're in right now is an absolute blast. I don't want to say too much about it. Once we got to that point, I was completely sold by that point on Ichi the Witch, but I definitely think that Ichi the Witch has the potential to become an incredible series and get a pretty high ranking eventually. Like I've said this before, but I feel like once it hits like its chapter like 100 eventually, I feel like it's going to be at like a place where it's going to be a pretty unstoppable force, and by then it'll probably also have like an anime and whatnot, and the manga will be out to whatever chapter, whatever volume in English, and it's stuff like an anime. I mean? It's just like a matter of when it gets an anime, but seriously, dude, it's such a killer series. Drama Queen. I love Drama Queen. I'm super happy to see it doing well and to not get canceled, because I know the creator of it was kind of worried about it, getting canceled because of the backlash that it received for the first chapter. Like, there's some stuff that happens in the first chapter where people were getting really upset, and it became like this whole thing. It blew up way bigger than it ever should have. And people were just going crazy, calling racism and saying all these other things about it. And it was super unfortunate because, as it's gotten going, it's really become a pretty solid series. Like, what's happening and the way that it studies its characters and the way that the characters behave and whatnot, you kind of see that there's definitely something wrong with those characters. Like, they're not normal. Like, they are definitely psychopaths, and the story, in a sense, I feel like it acknowledges that they're definitely not okay, and one of them is kind of forced to see himself, and see the things that he's doing. And I kind of like that, where it's like pointing a finger at what they're doing and kind of like, saying, because he has morality to an extent, whereas this other girl that is his friend, I want to put that in quotations. I want to put that in quotations. This girl that is his quote unquote friend, she has no morality at all. Like, I don't think she has any emotions like whatsoever. She is legitimately a psychopath. Like, feels nothing towards him. At one point in time, like, he gets hurt and she just kind of laughs at him, and he's like severely injured and she couldn't care less. Yeah, it's definitely worth reading, dude. If you can get past, the whole, thing that everybody was up in arms about, I feel like you'll really enjoy Drama Queen. All right, last for the digital is Heart Gear. So I only read one chapter of Heart Gear last month, but it was just because, like, I was so swamped, dude. Like, I had so much stuff going on. Like, I was trying to get my reading done for this video, and like, I was also working on other stuff. So like, I on the fly just read one chapter of Heart Gear, and I was actually going to try to read like a couple chapters to try to start catching up, and it ended up not happening. Volume 5 is coming out in like July, I think, but I kind of want to be just done with the story by the time that last volume drops. But yeah, dude, I love Heart Gear. In April, I've continued to read it. I've read like 2 chapters so far in April, so that's a little bit of a spoiler for my April rewind. But I'm hoping to really like sit down and get more read for Heart Gear so that I can try to knock it out. Hopefully by like maybe May or so. Given that like I'm also juggling it between like a lot of other stuff. Like, you see when I do these rewinds, like, I talk about a lot of different digital stuff that I'm reading, and like I really want to pile in more stuff, but I'm thinking once, like some of these end, like once Wild Strawberry ends and like Astro Baby, once those like, reach their conclusions, I'll have like 2 slots open to add more newer stuff into the mix, because I do want to start reading Bug Ego, and I really want to read Goichi's newest one. I forgot what it's called, something King. Like, I really want to read that, but yeah, like, there's a bunch of other stuff that like I really want to work in, but it's tough, dude, to find time to get, reading with those digitals. And then also, I'm trying to make sure that I'm hitting at least, 10 volumes read every single month without fail. And so far I've been good about it. January, February, and March, I've been good about it. Right now in April, I've only read like 3 volumes to completion, and we're like in the middle of April. So I have to read like 7 more volumes by the end of the month, and still edit my videos and whatnot, and work a full-time job and do all these other things, all these other obligations. So yeah, dude, I'm doing my best. All right, so now we are on to the physical portion of the video, and right off the bat we got After God Volume 2. I absolutely love this. This for me was a 5 out of 5 volume. So I'm pretty certain that I talked about After God in one of my videos, but yeah, this series just gets progressively better and better. I also read Volume 3, but I read Volume 3 in April, so I'll end up talking about that in my April rewind. That'll probably come out in May, probably like the middle end of May. But yeah, this is an incredible volume, dude. Like, I don't want to say too much about it, but what I will say is, like, it gives me like Chainsaw Man vibes. Not in the like goofy aspect of Chainsaw Man, but like in the more serious sort of aspect of Chainsaw Man. Like, I want to say the middle end of part 1, like middle-ish near the end of part 1. There's this whole thing that happens with Denji, and it feels like everybody and their mother is coming after him, and that's kind of like what happens in this volume, and it feels like a super duper accelerated, you know what I mean, sort of jump. Like, this is like the things that happen in this volume are things that you would kind of expect to happen like in a volume 5 or 6, but it's just like it happens super duper fast. Like, yeah, like it's moving like at a way more accelerated rate than I would have expected it to move at. And so that's pretty rad in my opinion, and that's kind of the reason that I gave it a 5, because I did not expect it to ramp things up this quickly. And even in volume 3, like it pushes it even further. So I have a lot of respect for this series for, doing that, for kind of just, saying screw it, dude, and just going full throttle. But yes, please, dude, if you're not reading After God, dude, please read After God. This series just gets so much better, and I can't even imagine, what's going to happen in Volume 4. And yeah, we have some revelations in Volume 3 that I'll talk a little bit more about in my April video. But yeah, this was a banger volume, dude. Excited to see what we're going to get out of the series in the future. Next up, we got Tomie. So I'm kind of going through these in order. Like, as I read them, that's the order that, I put them down. Like, I'll just put each, volume or whatever. So each one of these that I go through is going to be in the exact order that I read it, throughout the month. And this, for me, was a 4 out of 5. I'm going to be talking about this in a video by itself at some point in time. Like, I have a whole script for Tomie, so I'm going to be, really going deep into it. I can't really promise you when it's going to drop. Probably like the summer or something. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this. Like, I did enjoy it. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and mostly I gave it a 4 out of 5 because I'm a fan of Junji Ito and I love his artwork. Otherwise, I would have probably given it like a 3.5 out of 5. I think this has so far been his weakest effort. Nothing against him, dude, because like I love Junji Ito. I'm a massive Junji Ito fan. I'm trying to knock out a huge video about his works, and I've like little by little been, trying to work my way through his different stories and whatnot, and writing my thoughts on each and every one of them, just going down the line. But yeah, this one was kind of a letdown. It's a huge volume as well. I would read this like, before work every morning, and, just kind of like whenever I had time, like I would break it open and try to like spend some time with it because it is such a huge volume. But some great stories in there, some mediocre stories. Ultimately, I felt like it needed more. I wanted to know, why, you know what I mean? I wanted to understand why, but there's kind of like no real explanation. As far as I can remember, like there was no real explanation. It just kind of, things just happen. No real origin for Tomie. And I don't know, man. People really love this collection, but it wasn't for me. I think Uzumaki is still infinitely better. I still think Uzumaki is his best work ever. Like I've, at this point in time, read a lot of Junji Ito, and I don't think there's anything that's going to top that one. But yeah, pretty much, man. I don't think I need to explain Tomie to anybody. But yeah, I'm going to do a video about it later just to like do like a more hands-on, impression, and kind of go through the world and talk a little bit more about it in its own video. So yeah, that'll be something where I'll really dig into it. So yeah, this is a little bit more on the surface, mediocre sort of a, explanation of it. But once I do my other video, I feel like you'll understand more why I'm kind of rating it where I am. But yeah, if you love Tomie, that's cool, dude. I'm not hating on your enjoyment of the series. I wish I could have enjoyed it more myself, but sometimes that's what happens. All right, next up we got Hikari Man. This is another 4 out of 5. I actually talked about Hikari Man in my last video that I did before this one. I talked about Hikari Man, and yeah, this is a pretty solid read. The reason I gave this a 4 and didn't rate it higher is that the art really took me out of it. It's got like this weird, like sort of CGI art, and it kind of like made it hard to read at times, and I just couldn't take it seriously. Like seeing the odd, selection of artwork. I kind of wish it would have been like hand drawn, but I mean, I kind of like. But part of me feels like the reason that Hideo Yamamoto did the CGI art is that it's like supposed to be like a series that's like revolves around technology, and like that's kind of like as soon as the story opens, like it's going on about technology and how people are essentially connected, by the internet and whatnot. So part of me is thinking that like that's why he used CGI art. It's kind of like to drive home, the point of that, like computers and whatnot, the electronic medium. But maybe I'm just reading too much into it. One thing that I really did like is that there's a poster of Ichi the Killer from the movie. Like there's a poster of the actor who, I forgot what the name of the character is, but the dude's got like the like the earrings or whatever in his mouth. I forgot what the character's name is, but I saw that movie a lifetime ago, like when I was a teenager, and I just remember it being like one of the wildest things ever. And I have the Blu-ray, and like I keep meaning to rewatch it, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, I did a whole video about Hikari Man. Interesting story, kind of like an underdog sort of a thing, you know, with this kid who gets bullied and then eventually like, you know, gets these powers and he's able to take on the kids that bully him, and then later on he starts to become kind of like a defender of justice and starts, you know, like helping people in need. And yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, you know, if you want to go into it yourself and explore this world, I think you definitely should. Just because I didn't really like the art or whatever too much doesn't mean that somebody else won't, you know, absolutely love it and give it like a 5 out of 5. So yeah, you know, each of us has our own opinions, and I think that's what makes the community stronger, is that we all like different things. We don't all always like the same things, and I feel like that's okay, and it should be okay. Mujina, Into the Deep. I'm going to be talking about this for my next video, which will be a currently reading video, which is going to be my summer currently reading video. I loved this volume, dude. This was a 5 out of 5 for me. Like, I'm just a massive Inio Asano fan, dude. Like, Goodnight Boon Boon. I love that series. Dead Demons, Destruction. That's another series that's absolutely killer. This kind of reminded me a little bit more of like a Dead Demons. It feels like a little more akin to that. I think because like that was like his last series, I'm pretty sure, before Mujina was Dead Demons. So it kind of has like his style has definitely changed a lot, you know, from when he was doing Goodnight Boon Boon way back in the day to now, you know, he's doing Mujina. And I wrote a lot about Mujina, so like I'll be a little bit more concise about it, you know, when I do my summer currently reading video, because like I did write a lot of stuff about it, and I've since kind of forgotten some of it, because like I'm just reading so much for videos and whatnot that like once I read this like beginning of March, like as soon as this volume arrived, dude, I was like in it, man. I was knee deep in the world and writing my thoughts like right away, because I didn't want to lose any of it. But pretty much, like, I thought that like her name was Mujina, but Mujina is actually like a type of human that in this world is considered like a sub-human. They have no rights. Pretty much people become Mujina when like they're low on money or whatever, and like it's a way like to just kind of like distance yourself from society, and there are no rules for you, but at the same time you're like not really a whole, you're not really like a full person. It's really weird, but it's a cool story, and I feel like it's just like, it's kind of meant to be like a commentary on, you know, class and society and whatnot, and there's elements that I thought were really cool. It kind of brings back like a Depression era sort of a thing, you know, where like people would etch on things that like it was safe camp, or, you know, like the hobo code, where different symbols meant different things, and that's employed in this by different Mujina and whatnot in safe spaces for people that are Mujina. And there's like a whole political thing, you know, that is going on in the background as like the backdrop or whatever of the series. And there's the Mujina that are like assassins and whatnot, and the girl that we meet here on the cover is an assassin. And yeah, it's all around a solid series, dude. And once I do my video, you know, once I do my summer rewind, once I do my summer currently reading, you know, I'll go a little bit deeper into it, because like I wrote a lot of stuff about it, so I'll be, like I said, I'll be a lot more concise, you know, with my wordage. All right, next up we got Cat Diary, Yon, and Moo. This was something that at first I was kind of like, this is dumb. I was like, this is like kind of dumb, but by the end of it, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude, by the end of the story, I was legit shedding tears. Like real tears were flowing down my eyes. Yeah, dude, like I'm not gonna say what happens, you know, like why it made me cry, dude, but like I legit shed tears, man, because it definitely has, I don't want to say, but yeah, the ending, yeah, it made me cry. And it's a cute story, dude. Like it's a cute collection. I mean to say, it's like mostly is, you know, Junji Ito and his wife, and then, you know, throughout the volume, like you see pictures of the two cats that are the leads, and they're real cats. They're Junji Ito's real cats and whatnot, and they do kind of look like this, you know. And his wife had a part in bringing the story to life and kind of, yeah, and she kind of corrected him in the way that, like, the cats would act, or like certain things that the cats would do, and it was kind of like an advisor, I guess, if you will, for the manga. But yeah, it's an adorable thing. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Mostly because of the ending that I won't spoil. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun to read, and yeah, definitely. I read it for my big Junji Ito video, because like I'm going through everything in order, and yeah, I ended up knocking this one out pretty quickly. I think it took me like a couple days, a couple mornings, because I usually read the stuff that I read from my Junji Ito videos. I usually read it in the morning. Full Night Volume 4. This was a 5 out of 5. This is one of those series that, in my opinion, just gets absolutely incredible. This is one of those series, in my opinion, that just goes from amazing to incredible. It just never stops being one of the wildest rides that I've ever embarked upon. From the first volume to this fourth volume, like, I don't think it misses. I'm pretty sure like every one of these that I've read has been a 5 out of 5. I don't think any of them has been anything less than a 5. Like, seeing how things are handled, and seeing that there's like this town where people that are like super destitute and whatnot go. Like, we see that in this volume. You think that the city, where the story takes place, is miserable until you get to like this other town, and I'm not going to spoil too much about that. And then you realize that, as miserable as I thought it was, like I was like, it can't get any worse than this, and I was wrong. I was wrong, dude. It 100% can get way more miserable at the drop of a hat. It does, and for the life of me, dude, I can't imagine how much more miserable they can make this thing. It's so good though, dude. It's so well done. Like, the characters are so intriguing, like that. Even though it is like a hard read, you don't want to put it down, because it's so engrossing, and like you want to see what happens next. You want to see where these characters are going to go. You want to see what's going to happen to them. You don't want anything to happen to them, because you come to cherish them, and you come to really care about what's going on with their lives and whatnot. And yeah, dude, I can't wait to eventually get my hands on Volume 5 whenever that drops, and see what's going on next. And yeah, I talked about this in a video a while back, so I'll link it here, I guess, for anybody that wants to go back and check out my thoughts, like my more constructive criticism or whatever of Full Night. Tokyo Alien Bros. This was another 5 out of 5 from the same creator of Hira Yasumi, which I actually just got the first volume of, and plan on reading it pretty soon, because I love Tokyo Alien Bros. I remember talking about this in my February haul video. Just remember saying that Tokyo Alien Bros looked like it was going to be a lot of fun, and sure enough, dude, I didn't think I was going to like it nearly as much as I did. Like, right off the bat, this thing just goes completely off the rails, and I'm not going to say what happens, because it is extremely adult, and I can't say that here on this channel. I can't say the thing that happens. It involves bodily fluids, and that's all I'm going to say. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I was like, I didn't realize we were going to get kinky that quick. But yeah, it was interesting. And that's pretty much like this whole series, dude. These two dudes right here are aliens. He's been on Earth for a really long time, and then this dude comes to Earth to kind of like survey his progress and to keep an eye on him and whatnot. But as the story goes, you kind of learn that there's more to it than that. But yeah, dude, I loved every second of it. These two brothers and the situations they get into, the different characters that surround them. They're like supposed to be like college age or whatever. And the different situations that surround them, the things that happen to them are pretty wild. And it's kind of like a slice of life in a sense. It definitely has that like slice of life feel, but then there's moments of it that are extremely adult oriented. So yeah, this is definitely not meant to be for kids unless you're like 18 years old. Yeah, it even has like the mature right there, which I didn't even realize, because like I never read the back when I buy these. I just see the covers and I'm just like, that looks interesting, and I check it out pretty much just like with no understanding of what it is or what it's about or anything. And go in almost, for the most part, usually pretty blind, unless it's something that somebody else recommended me, and like I watched their video and they were like, hey, check this out, and I'm just like, all right, cool, I will. But yeah, I'm going to talk about this again in my summer currently reading. So like I wrote a lot of stuff about it, so I'll be able to give you like a more well-rounded opinion once that video drops. This is Nakamura-san, the Uninvited Gyaru. This is a lot of fun, but it did have, some gripes with it. Regardless, I did get volume 2 of this series. I think I read this as a part of my summer currently reading video, but I talked about stuff like this a long time ago. I did a video about rom-com manga, and the lead dude in this right there, he has that energy that I always have a gripe with, but for whatever reason, like I still keep reading these, and I think I read them because of the girls, because the dudes in these series are always like the lamest, always like the worst characters ever. Like they're so lame, and they're so corny, like they're absolute cornballs. I think I mentioned it in my old video that I did forever ago too. It's like nobody's ever complimented these girls in their lives or whatever, and as soon as like this cornball dude's like, oh, you're beautiful, like they flush red and whatnot, and they're like, oh my god, I'm in love with him because he gave me a compliment. Like nobody's ever, given these girls a compliment or like done anything nice for them or whatever, and like they always fall. Like the girls in these series always fall for whatever reason, like for like no reason whatsoever, just because like the plot needs them to fall so that like the dude can catch them and be like, no, you're gonna fall or whatever, and they land somehow in a way that makes absolutely no sense. Like a way that makes absolutely zero sense. Like they fall and like he catches them or whatever, and they're like, oh, are you okay? And the girl like flushes red and like suddenly she's in love with him. And that's like, that happens in this as well. I think I like reading these because like I like making fun of them, like because it's so dumb, dude. Like it's such a stupid trope. Every one of these always does it, and it's absolutely hilarious, dude. And yeah, this is no different. I think that's part of the reason that like I gave it a 3.5, but I still got volume 2 anyway. Because like I like the girls. I think the girls are a lot of fun, and all of these, like Rent a Girlfriend, which I stopped reading a while ago, does that. This does it. God, there's other series as well that do it, but the reason that she falls for this dude is that they're both in like this cartoon, this like anime or whatever that she grew up watching, and like she has like figurines and whatnot and is like an otaku for it in a sense, but he knows about it as well. She realizes that he also knows about it and wants somebody to talk with about it because, she for the most part is a gyaru, and like that's her whole subculture. And doesn't really know much about otaku, like the otaku subculture. So through meeting this dude over here, she ends up, becoming more involved in that world. And yeah, it's a cute series, dude. I mean, it's not terrible, it's not incredible or anything, but it's fun. You know what I mean? That's, if you're looking for something that's just super goofy and whatnot, I think that you may enjoy this one. Alright, next up we got Shimazaki in the Land of Peace. I think this is also a part of my summer currently reading lineup, but this is a phenomenal read. I really did not know what I was getting myself into with this one. Like, for the most part, yeah, like I went into this blind as well. I saw the artwork and was like, I wonder what the hell this is about. And it kind of like gives me like Black Lagoon vibes, Like that's kind of what it makes me think of. It's like Black Lagoon mixed with like The Fable and Under Ninja. Those are 3 things that I would say are pretty close to what Shimazaki is. I don't want to say too much about it, but this dude, when he was a kid, he was kidnapped, in a sense. Let's say that. He was kidnapped, and he's trained, indoctrinated, I guess if you will, into this sort of terrorist cell, and as a part of this terrorist cell, he does horrible things and commits these atrocities, and at some point in time, he escapes, from that cell and goes back to Japan. But he spent so much time abroad that, like, his Japanese isn't really the best, and Japanese people, don't really accept him as being Japanese. And then there's, like, this whole political climate. There's this war that's coming, and it's kind of like counting down the days. Like, every chapter, or, like, at the beginning, end, or whatever of every chapter, there'll be like a timer that's counting down, how much time until this like civil war, unrest, whatever, ends up taking place. But it's still cool, man. Like seeing this dude, like that's like his whole disposition. He reminds me of like Akira Sato from the Fable, where he's like this cold-blooded killer, but at the same time, like he's able to laugh at certain things. And Shimazaki's the same way, where he's like a cold-blooded killer, and he doesn't have the same thought process, like as just like anyone else would. He's kind of like stoic for the most part, given the stuff that he's seen and done and whatnot. And yeah, it's a pretty solid read. Brutal at times, and you see character backgrounds that are kind of tragic and whatnot. And at times it's really gory, really brutal, and I definitely did not expect that going in because, like, obviously, like I said, I went in blind and I didn't know anything about it. So yeah, I'm excited to check out Volume 2. I do have Volume 2 on the shelf, so I may end up. I don't know if I'm going to read it for April. It probably won't be in my April rewind, but it might be in my May rewind. But yeah, definitely, this is a solid read. All right, next up we got Drac Volume 1. This was, I think this is from my summer video as well, but this was just absolutely insane, dude. This is like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure levels of just what the hell am I reading? I wouldn't be surprised in any way, shape, or form if that was like a gigantic influence on Drac. There's like a space there. It's supposed to be Drac-Q, like Dracula. Yeah, pretty much we follow two characters, one of whom is a human being and the other one is a vampire. This was a 4.5 out of 5 as well, but yeah, I'm pretty sure the reason I didn't give it a full 5 is that like it just kind of felt like a rip-off of JoJo's. But I mean, there's honestly, to me, there's like no flaws in it. It's non-stop, just goofy as all hell. It's seriously just like the whole volume is just super duper goofy. I gotta pick up Volume 2. I haven't picked up Volume 2 yet. But, dude, I had an absolute blast with it. The situations in it with the characters and whatnot, and like, it's funny because like, right off the bat, like, there's 5 rules that I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but there's like 5 rules that like every vampire has to follow to be safe. And this story just proceeds to disobey every one of those rules. This story 100% just disregards every one of those rules, and it's funny how like I think it crosses each rule out that's like completely destroyed and disobeyed or whatever. Yeah, she falls in love with a human and whatnot, and something happens later on in the volume that I'm not gonna get too into, but yeah, there's like werewolves and whatnot that also exist in this universe, and dude, it is, oh man, it's such a blast to read, and the vampire aspect of it, and it's like super slapstick. Yeah, it's like super slapstick, and like it can get a little bit serious at times. And there's a point in time where like there's like a headless vampire, and the head's still speaking and whatnot. It's, I don't know, dude. It's super irreverent, and then like the head gets sewn back onto the vampire's body. But yeah, man, it's super irreverent. If you're a fan of nonsensical, irreverent stories that are just non-stop laughs that will have you wanting to pour through the whole thing and just jump right into the next volume to see what other ridiculousness, comes up next. I think that Drac-Q has your back. And this is a 2025 release as well, so yeah, this is a lot of fun. Alright, next up we got The Solving Classroom. This was a part of my Junji Ito reads for my video. So this was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Well, this is a collection of stories, and each one of these stories in this volume just gets more bananas than the last. Like, it's pretty much like, I think it's supposed to be like an ode to Drifting Classroom, because Junji Ito's like a huge Kazuo Umez fan, and rest in peace to Kazuo Umez. This is a lot of fun. Like, pretty much this dude right here and his little sister are, I don't know if I want to say too much about it, but let's just say they have a relationship with the devil, and him more so than her. She's possessed by like a demon or whatever, and then he gets off on essentially doing this to people right there. Like, he gets off on doing that. I don't want to say too much about it, because like it's super duper easy to ruin this thing, but yeah, like he will apologize over and over, and his apologizing to people causes them to melt. And yeah, it's literally like the whole thing. But there's different characters that come and go throughout the series and throughout the collection of stories, you know, and it culminates in something that I was not like whatsoever expecting. And I think that's why I give it like a 4.5, because I was just gonna give it like a 4, you know, because it was fun, but it's kind of like, yeah, I kind of get it, you know what I mean? But the ending made me give it a 4.5. I'm not gonna say what happens, and you know, it's such a wild story, man. This is, in my opinion, just like core Junji Ito, just doing the most irreverent, just writing the most irreverent stuff out. And little sister, her name is Chizumi, is so wild, dude. Like, she's one of the best parts of it because she couldn't care less. Where like he is pretending like, you know, he isn't a horrible piece of garbage. You know, she just fully embraces what she is, and yeah, dude, this is a ton of fun to read. All right, so the last physical volume that we're going to be talking about for this video is The Hungry Succubus Wants to Consume Him. This is legitimately 100%. I don't know how the hell this isn't hentai. This reminds me of like Witches of Adamas, which is another series that like I haven't read it in a long time. I read like the first 2 or 3 volumes of it, and also was like, how is this not on like Faku or something, you know? And I kind of feel the same way with this. Like, this is somehow not hentai. It's like right there, dude. Pretty much like we follow this girl right here who is a succubus, and she is trying to get this dude right there to have sex with her. He is a virgin, and she's kind of looking for a challenge or whatever. And he ends up proving to be the ultimate challenge, because like he will not, no matter what, you know, have sex with her. And it kind of reminds me of like the it kind of brings me back to the Nakamura-san, the uninvited Yaru thing, you know, where he's like that perfect gentleman sort of a thing, you know, like the dude who's such a nice guy who like compliments her, you know, like nobody in her life has ever complimented her. Well, in this case, it would kind of make sense, you know, because she's a succubus. She's literally a succubus. Her whole thing is to enchant men and make them fall for her so that they'll have sex with her or whatever. And I'm not going to go into why in this one, because it's extremely X-rated. It's extremely X-rated, dude. I mean, if you really want to know, you can look it up or go read it for yourself if you are a man of culture or a person of culture. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Kind of surprised. You know, I think it was later on in the volume, because it did things that, like, I kind of enjoyed. And the artwork is actually really good, despite it being essentially trash. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the first to admit, dude, I'm a fan of trash. I read a lot of trash. I also like really good stuff, man. Like, I just read Seraphim 266613336 Wings by 2 big creators. I forgot what one of them, Mamori Oshi, I think that's what his name is, and Satoshi Kon. Like, I just read that for a video that I'm gonna do eventually. Like, I just finished reading that, and like, that is, I don't want to say too much about that either, but that is an incredible story. And yeah, I like that stuff, but then also like this, you know what I mean? I feel like it's a good balance. You know, it's a good balance to like incredible art that's thought-provoking and really makes you look at the world that you live in, and then stuff that's really just trash. This is definitely the best bit of trash that I've read in a while, and I have volume 2 on the shelf as well. Alright, so now we are on to the film part of this video. If you are still watching, thank you so much for sticking around, because you don't have to, and I do appreciate that anybody watches any amount of these videos. But we're gonna knock it out with some films. I'm not gonna say too much about any of these. I'm just gonna like try to like rattle them off. I might see a word or two, but right off the bat, the first film, kind of pretty much with this same thing, you know, just kind of like go down the line of everything that I watched in order. throughout the month of March. So right off the bat, we got 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. This was a 4 out of 5. Frances McDormand is in this. Sam Rockwell is in it as well. They both put in incredible performances. I think this is by the same director who did Banshees of Inisherin, which is a phenomenal film. Next up, we got Thief. This was a 4.5 out of 5. This is Michael Mann, who also did Heat. This predates Heat by, I don't even know what, like 10 years, give or take, or more than that, like 15 years. But yeah, you can definitely see, what would eventually become Heat. You can see like his style sort of molding or whatever. And by the time that Heat comes out, he's already got like this really distinct sort of style. It's like really sleek and whatnot. And you can definitely see it in Thief as well. And Thief was, I thought, a really solid film. Mickey 17. This was a 4.5 out of 5. This came out this year. I didn't think I was going to like this movie. I honestly thought it was going to be awful. But given that it is Bong Joon-ho, and Robert Pattinson, I'm a huge Robert Pattinson fan. Loved it. Thought it was incredible. Definitely better than I thought it was going to be. Because I saw the previews for it, and it just looked really dumb. And it is kind of dumb in a sense, because our lead is a total goofball, but it overall was definitely worth watching. And I may end up, buying the 4K or whatever when it comes out eventually. Next up, we got Drugstore Cowboy. This was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I got the Criterion edition of it just released on Blu-ray not that long ago, and I decided to pick it up. Loved it. I'm a huge fan of drug movies. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was one of my favorite films ever. Spawn is another one. I love drug movies. I don't know why, they're just some of in my opinion, some of the best made films. And you can definitely see this having had some sort of an influence on Inherent Vice, because when I watched Inherent Vice, I think last month, I talked about it in my last video, and this feels like it could have been an inspiration for Inherent Vice to some extent, because there's certain beats that this follows that Inherent Vice later also follows, and I'm sure other people will see it as well that have seen both films. It's right there. The Return of the Living Dead. This was a 4 out of 5 for me. I've somehow never seen this movie. I literally just watched it for the first time ever and loved it. I used to watch the third one in the series, and I was in love with the lead character, the girl from the third movie. When I was a kid, like a kid in the 90s or whatever, I had a crush on her. And it's funny, my taste in women was essentially dictated by my childhood. Janine Garoppolo in Mystery Men, Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, like that sort of style. I don't know, that aesthetic, kind of became my taste in women as I got older. But it's true, and it's hilarious, dude. I kind of think about that now as an adult. I look back and I'm like, damn, all the girls that I liked in movies kind of had this really specific sort of a look to them. An American Werewolf in London. This was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. This is John Landis, who also did the Twilight Zone movie, which had a really unfortunate accident that claimed the life of Vic Morrow. But yeah, American Werewolf in London. Loved it. Solid film. Really glad that I finally watched it. I'd never seen it before. One of the best werewolf transformations that I've ever seen in a film. Alright, so it's pronounced Ring, but I like to call it Ringu because I'm one of those people. This was a 4 out of 5. It's definitely dated, you know what I mean? This came out a while ago, and I feel like the Ring remake was a lot more exciting or whatever. But this is kind of the starting point of that whole sort of genre and whatnot, and it's still a classic. And I respect it for being a classic, which is why I gave it a 4 out of 5. Otherwise, I might have given it a 3.5 out of 5, but out of respect, for being a classic, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Constantine. This is supposed to be getting a part 2, I think, or maybe that's just speculation or whatever, but loved this film when I first saw it as a teenager. Now I rewatched it as an adult in 4K. Still love it. One of my favorite films, growing up, and it's a shame that we never got a part 2 back when, but I think it just wasn't, received super well, and probably just didn't have a great box office, and when it came out. I'm sure like the DVD sales, because it was like probably only on DVD at the time. I think it was still when like DVDs were like the go-to. And yeah, probably just didn't have like a great release, you know, to DVD, and probably didn't have a great release, you know, to box office, and it just never got a part two, which is a shame, you know, because it was a great setup, you know, and whatnot for there to be more of it. But it's not too late, man. It's not too late to do. It's not too late to do a part two. Okja, this is another Bong Joon-ho movie. This for me was a 4 out of 5. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Paul Dano was really cool in it. I did not expect Paul Dano to be cool, because like I see Paul Dano as being the goofy kid in Little Miss Sunshine, and then he's also like the goofy kid in There Will Be Blood, and then he's also like the incel in the Batman movie or whatever. But solid film. I thought that he did a great job. The little Korean girl that, you know, comes out in it, I think did a great job as well. Steven Yeun, phenomenal performance. You know, just everybody involved, I think, did a great job with it. Kind of like a Greenpeace sort of a thing. And Jake Gyllenhaal's in it. Yeah, that's the reason I gave it a 4 out of 5 instead of like a higher score, is that like I hated Jake Gyllenhaal's accent and I hated Tilda Swinton's accents. Like their accents were awful. But there was a part in it that did make me shed tears, like near the end, that I won't spoil, but I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Next up, we got Death of a Unicorn. This was a 4 out of 5 for me. I saw this in theaters with a friend of mine. It's super irreverent, dude. Like, you're not going to get too much out of this one. It was a lot of fun. Will Poultier, whatever his name is, Poultier, did a phenomenal job. I actually just watched him as well in Warfare. I'll talk about it again in my April rewind, because I did watch it in April. Warfare, and loved Warfare. I think he did a phenomenal job in that film. He did a great job in this one as well. He's just a great comedic actor and just great serious actor as well. I like that range. Like that's a dude that really does have quite a range. Jenny Ortega is in this. She plays a teenager. I think she's like in her 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Probably like early 20s. She's still probably pretty young. But yeah, she plays like a teenage girl, and her dad is Paul Rudd. I can't remember who else is in this movie. I think the dude from Barry. Yeah, I'm pretty sure one of the dudes from Barry's in it. The one who plays NoHo Hank. He's in this movie. He did a great job as well. He was hilarious. Pretty much everybody involved, I think, did a great job. It's way gorier than I thought it was going to be. Like, it was super duper gory. There's a girl in this who was in Mr. Robot at one point in time. She was in it for like the 3rd season, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, really well done. Really, really fun movie, dude. All right, and the last film that we're going to be talking about is one of my favorite films ever, and that is Kill Bill. I watched Kill Bill in theaters as a kid with my brother, and I remember having like the hugest crush on Gogo Yubari, who was played by Chiaki Kuriyama, and I ended up just having the biggest crush ever on Chiaki Kuriyama. She was also in Battle Royale, so I knew her from this movie and like Battle Royale, dude. And yeah, like I had such a crush on her. And then she was like an otaku as well. She might still be kind of like an otaku, but she had like figures and whatnot. Like I think she had like a figure from Evangelion, and like she interviewed Hiroya Oku, the creator of Gantz, at one point in time. Like I watched the interview, and like I remember he was like super duper awkward, and she was like all giggly and whatnot, because she was like asking him these questions about the world, and you could tell he's like kind of like an awkward sort of a person. Yeah, I love Kill Bill, dude. One of my favorite films ever. I need to rewatch the second one. I was gonna rewatch it in March to also talk about it, to talk about them both at the same time, but it ended up not happening. I may end up watching it in April just to kind of like knock it out as well. But yeah, I saw both of them in theaters. I saw the first one with my brother, and then I saw Kill Bill Volume 2 with my mom. I can't remember if she liked it or not. I can't remember if my mom liked it or not, but I loved it, you know, and definitely loved Kill Bill more, the first one more, because it was just over the top. And, you know, I was like 12 years old at the time, 12, 13 years old, and it was one of the wildest things that I'd ever seen in my life up to that point, you know. And like I didn't really know Tarantino movies, you know, like I didn't know that he did Pulp Fiction. I hadn't seen Pulp Fiction at that point, you know. I hadn't seen Reservoir Dogs or Jackie Brown or anything. So that was all I really knew of his work and loved it. And then later on, I would end up watching Inglourious Bastards in films in theaters, and Inglourious Bastards to this day is literally probably my favorite film ever. But yeah, that is everything that I read or watched in March. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It means the absolute world that you took time out of your day and spent over an hour hanging out with me. I was really hoping to make this video shorter, but it just ended up getting extremely long. Because once I get into a thing, man, like I want to talk about it, and it ends up making these videos be ridiculously long. But if you enjoyed our time together and you want to support what I do here, you can do so by heading over to Patreon and becoming a patron for $2 a month, or you can even become a YouTube member if you wanted to and help me out. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's not going to change anything. I'm still going to drop the same content that I've been dropping all this time. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you. Thanks for hanging out with me. It means the absolute world. Until next time that we meet.